Racist cops arrest an elderly black man without realizing his son is a Navy SEALs commander. The sun bled through the trees of Maple Avenue as an elderly black man stumbled onto the curb, clutching a worn leather wallet. Within seconds, 2 patrol cars screeched beside him. "Hands where I can see them," barked an officer. He froze, confused, trembling, his red sweater torn and his voice cracking. "I found it on the ground." But their hands were already on him. The woman screamed, "Stop resisting," while the man cried out in pain. By the time the cuffs clicked, a cell phone camera was rolling, and somewhere across the country, a Navy SEAL's phone began to vibrate. It was supposed to be just another quiet morning in Denver, the kind of morning when old men feed pigeons and the city hums at a gentle rhythm. But Jameson Cole, 67, wasn't feeding pigeons. He was looking for a bus stop after leaving the shelter. If you're enjoying this story, click subscribe, like this video, and comment what time it is that you're watching this video. Now let's get back to the story. His sweater, once crimson, was now threadbare, a patchwork of holes that matched the years life had torn from him. He had been a machinist, a husband, a father. But the world had moved faster than he could heal. That morning, he spotted a brown purse lying in the gutter. Open, scattered, with credit cards spilling out. He picked it up, glancing around for its owner. A white woman across the street saw him bend down, then clutch the purse, her eyes widening in suspicion. "Hey, that's not yours," she shouted. Startled, Jameson turned, raising his hands. "Ma'am, I was just..." But she was already dialing. Within 3 minutes, 2 squad cars pulled up, tires crunching against the asphalt. Officers Turner and Martinez stepped out. Turner was broad, square-jawed, and already annoyed. Martinez, younger, sharp, and cautious. The kind who still believed in procedure but followed her partner's lead. Turner barked, "Sir, what are you doing with that purse?" Jameson blinked, unsure what to say. I just found it there on the ground." "Sure you did." Turner approached, hand on his holster. "Put it down. Step back." Jameson placed it carefully on the curb, stepping back as told. His hands trembled. Martinez's radio crackled. "Caller says suspect tried to run." "I didn't run," Jameson pleaded, his voice cracking with disbelief. "I was gonna turn it in to the police station." Turner smirked. "Yeah. Then why'd you walk away from the scene?" "I was walking to the bus stop," he said, clutching his stomach as anxiety hit him like a wave. "I ain't steal nothing." Turner stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "You got ID." Jameson hesitated, reaching slowly into his back pocket for his worn wallet. The officer's hand shot to his gun. "Hands where I can see them. I'm just getting my ID." "Hands up," Turner yelled again, his voice slicing through the street. Martinez's voice wavered. "Easy, Tom, he's complying." But the command had already set something in motion that neither of them could undo. Within seconds, Turner grabbed the old man's wrist, yanking it backward. The other hand twisted painfully, and Jameson cried out, a guttural sound that echoed down the block. "Stop resisting!" Turner shouted, though Jameson was barely standing, tears mixing with sweat. Martinez tried to de-escalate, but the crowd had already gathered. Someone held up a phone, recording. An elderly woman across the street muttered, "He didn't do anything." The bystanders watched as Jameson Cole, a man who had worked 30 years at a steel plant, was dragged toward the police car as though his word meant nothing. At Denver Police Headquarters, the footage had already gone viral before the paperwork even started. Hashtags flooded social media. Hashtag justice for Jameson. Hashtag elderly man assaulted. Hashtag he found it, not stole it. By noon, Commander Adrian Cole, stationed at the Naval Amphibious Base in Coronado, sat in the mission planning room reviewing operational briefings for an upcoming classified rescue operation. His phone buzzed once, then again, then violently. Messages poured in from old friends, cousins, his sister. "Adrian, that's your dad on the news? They roughed him up bad, man. You need to see this." He clicked the link, and the world stopped. On screen, his father in that tattered red sweater, screaming in pain while two officers restrained him. The caption, "Suspected purse thief arrested. Witnesses claim police used excessive force." Adrian's heart thudded, slow and deep. The room faded. All he could hear was the shaky breath of his father, the man who had raised him after his mother died, who'd taught him the meaning of courage, the same man who once told him, "Fight the battle that matters, son, but never lose your soul doing it." Adrian clenched his jaw. He hadn't seen his father in 6 months. They'd argued about his military service. Jameson hated war, hated what it had taken from his son. But this wasn't war. This was something far uglier. Within minutes, Adrian's commanding officer walked in, seeing his expression. "Cole, what's going on?" Adrian stood, phone still in his hand, voice trembling with control. "My father was just assaulted by police. I need 48 hours of leave." The commander studied him, then nodded once. "Go. Handle your business, son." Adrian grabbed his duffel and headed for the door. Outside, the California sun was bright, but he felt only darkness. Back in Denver at the precinct, Jameson sat in a cold interrogation room, cuffs digging into his wrists. His head throbbed. Martinez stood by the door, shifting uneasily. Turner typed on his report tablet. "Indifferent. Found suspect with stolen property," Turner said flatly. "Resisted arrest. End of story." Martinez frowned. The woman's purse was intact, and her ID was inside. He didn't take anything. Turner shot her a glare. "Doesn't matter." He matched the description. "Description?" she repeated. "Elderly, unarmed, cooperative? Come on, Tom, this doesn't sit right." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Don't get soft on me, rookie. The media's got their version. We've got ours." Martinez exhaled. She'd seen bad arrests before, but this one gnawed at her. When she left the room, Jameson lifted his head slightly. His voice rasped through the air. "Officer, please. I just wanted to return it." For a moment, she almost broke protocol. "Sir, I believe you," she whispered. "But it's complicated." Jameson smiled weakly, one eye bruised. "It's always complicated. When you look like me." Outside, the station buzzed with reporters. The footage had triggered a firestorm. City officials scrambled to control the narrative. But somewhere above the chaos at 30,000 feet, Adrian Cole's military transport jet cut through the clouds, his mind fixed on one thing, his father's face. He wasn't coming as a son anymore. He was coming as something else entirely. The jet landed hard on the Denver tarmac, the wheels shrieking against concrete. Commander Adrian Cole stepped out in civilian clothes, black tactical jacket, plain jeans, no insignia, but he still carried himself like a man who'd been forged by war. Every movement was efficient, every glance calculating. His phone buzzed again. Messages from journalists, Navy colleagues, even politicians who suddenly remembered his name. None of that mattered. He only wanted to find his father. The police station looked smaller in person, almost insignificant, a beige box-shaped building that smelled of stale coffee and unwashed duty. But inside, behind the front desk, the tension was electric. "Excuse me," Adrian said, voice even but sharp. "I'm looking for Jameson Cole. He was brought in this morning." The desk officer, a young man with a clipboard and too much authority in his tone, barely looked up. "Can I ask your relation, sir?" "I'm his son," Adrian replied. "Commander Adrian Cole, U.S. Navy." That made the officer glance up and falter. "Oh, sir, I'm not sure. Let me check with the sergeant." As he stammered away, Adrian's eyes flicked to a nearby monitor showing a looping feed of public arrests. His father's face flashed again, frozen mid-scream. Adrian's jaw flexed, his knuckles white. Sergeant Turner emerged from a hallway, the same man from the video, still trying to hide behind his badge. "Commander Cole, is it?" Turner asked, his smirk faint but smug. "I'm sorry about the confusion. Your father's being processed. He'll be released soon." "Confusion." Adrian's voice dropped, low and dangerous. "You slammed a 70-year-old man to the pavement and called that a confusion?" Turner's grin stiffened. "Sir, with all due respect, your father matched a suspect's description and—" "Respect," Adrian interrupted, stepping closer, his tone like sharpened steel. "Don't use that word when you're lying." For a long moment, the air thickened. Officers nearby froze. Turner, realizing who he was talking to, softened his voice. "Look, I don't make the rules. I follow procedure." Adrian's eyes glinted. "You followed prejudice." Turner tensed. "I suggest you lower your tone, Commander. This is still a police precinct." Adrian smiled coldly. "And I suggest you start lawyering up, Sergeant." When Turner left, Officer Martinez hesitated by the hallway, watching the exchange from a distance. The guilt in her chest burned. She found Adrian moments later in the holding area, sitting across from his father through a glass window. The old man looked frail but still carried a quiet dignity. "Mr. Cole," she said softly, "your father's paperwork's nearly done. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I tried to stop it." Adrian studied her. She was young, mid-30s, the kind of officer who still believed in justice but was trapped in a broken system. "You were there," he said flatly. "Yes," she admitted. "And I saw everything." He didn't resist. He didn't do anything wrong. Turner jumped the gun. "I filed a report. But I don't know if it'll matter." Adrian leaned forward. "It will matter. Because I'm going to make sure it does." She hesitated. "Commander, off the record. Turner's got friends upstairs. The chief covers for him. There's already talk about altering the footage." That hit Adrian like a bullet. "They're going to bury it." Martinez nodded grimly. "They've done it before." When Adrian finally saw his father, the room went silent. Jameson sat there with bruises on his arms and a cut on his cheek, but his eyes, those eyes that once told stories by the firelight, were still sharp, proud. "Son," Jameson rasped, his voice breaking halfway. "You shouldn't have come." Adrian took a breath, holding back a wave of emotion. "You think I'd let this slide?" Jameson smiled faintly. "You've got battles of your own, soldier." "This is my battle," Adrian said, leaning in. "You taught me to fight for people who can't fight back." For a moment, the world shrank to that small room. Two men from different generations, both scarred by their own wars. Jameson lowered his gaze. "I picked up that purse because I wanted to do right, Adrian. They saw me and assumed I did wrong. Maybe that's just how it'll always be." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Not this time." That night, Adrian didn't go to a hotel. He went underground, figuratively and literally. Using his old military contacts, he tracked down a local journalist, Renee Kincaid, who specialized in exposing corruption. She met him in an old diner, neon lights flickering like broken promises. "You're the Navy SEAL commander everyone's tweeting about," she said, voice quick and sharp. "Your father's case is blowing up." I don't care about trends, Adrian said. I care about truth. Renee leaned in. You've got evidence. Adrian slid her a flash drive. That's the unedited footage. The version they're trying to bury. Her eyes widened. Where did you? Officer Martinez, he said simply. She risked her job to get it out. Renee exhaled. This could explode the whole department. Good, Adrian said. Let it. She hesitated, studying him. You know what happens when someone like you challenges a system like this? Adrian smirked faintly. I've faced worse men with better weapons. By morning, the leak had gone live. The uncut footage flooded the internet, the part where Turner shouted, "Stop resisting," while Jameson's hands were clearly raised. The part where Martinez tried to intervene. The part where Turner laughed afterward, thinking his body cam had been off. Denver woke up angry. Protests formed outside the precinct by noon. Reporters demanded statements. The police chief called an emergency meeting. Turner stormed through the hallways, red-faced. Who leaked it? He barked. Martinez stayed silent, pretending to review her notes, though her hand shook. That afternoon, Adrian's car was followed. A black SUV tailed him across 3 intersections before disappearing. At a red light, his phone rang, an unknown number. You don't know what you're dealing with, Commander, a distorted voice said. Back off or you and your old man will regret it. Adrian smiled thinly. You just confirmed I'm on the right trail. That night, someone vandalized Jameson's house, the small, worn bungalow he'd lived in since retirement. The words thief and liar were spray-painted across his fence. When Adrian arrived, his father was sitting on the porch, calm amid the wreckage. They want to scare us, Jameson said quietly. They picked the wrong family, Adrian replied. He knelt, scrubbing the paint with his bare hands. For the first time in years, Jameson smiled, proud and pained all at once. You've changed, boy, he said softly. Used to be all anger. Now you're just controlled anger. Adrian chuckled faintly. War teaches that. And peace? Jameson asked. Adrian paused, eyes distant. Still learning that part. By the 3rd day, the Department of Justice opened an inquiry. The governor called for Turner's suspension. National networks covered the case, dubbing it the Cole incident. Martinez came forward publicly, confirming the cover-up attempt. Her career was over, but her conscience was clear. As for Turner, he was placed on administrative leave. But Adrian knew that meant protection, not punishment. In private, Renee called him. I've got something, she said. Turner's connected to a training firm. They've got a contract with the city. Big money, deep roots. So it wasn't just racism, Adrian said grimly. It was profit. Renee nodded. And people like your dad. Collateral. Adrian's expression hardened. Not anymore. That night, Adrian stood by his father's bedside at the hospital. The stress had triggered a mild cardiac episode. Machines beeped softly around them. Jameson's hand reached out, trembling, finding his son's. Don't lose yourself in revenge, Adrian, he whispered. Justice ain't the same as vengeance. Adrian looked down, his voice quiet but firm. Maybe not. But sometimes, you have to walk through vengeance to reach justice. Jameson smiled faintly. Your mother would have hated that answer. Adrian smirked. She would have said it first. A tear slipped down Jameson's cheek, a mixture of pride, sorrow, and love. Go get him, son, he said softly. But come back whole. The Denver skyline glimmered against the night, a web of light and shadow, like the truth itself, partially hidden, never sleeping. Commander Adrian Cole stood in the middle of it, staring at City Hall from across the street, rain slicking his jacket. He wasn't thinking like a soldier now. He was thinking like a strategist. He'd been trained to infiltrate enemy compounds, extract hostages, dismantle operations. But this mission was different. This battlefield was built from bureaucracy, lies, and the slow poison of prejudice. And the enemy wore badges. Inside a nondescript office 3 blocks away, journalist Renee Kincaid had turned her workspace into a war room. Maps, emails, and evidence littered her walls. She looked up as Adrian entered, his face grim but focused. "I've got proof Turner's training company billed the city for tactical simulation services. Millions in fake contracts," Renee said. "And the chief signed off on every one." Adrian nodded. "They created fake threat scenarios, exaggerated crime stats, then profited from the training that followed." "Exactly," she said. "And your father's arrest? Perfect PR cover. A hero cop story to distract from the money trail." Adrian's fists clenched. "They used my father's pain as a smokescreen." "Worse," Renee said, sliding a file across the table. "There's a recorded call between Turner and the chief. They knew your father was innocent before the video even hit the net." The SEAL commander's silence was more dangerous than anger. His breathing slowed. His mind clicked into operational mode. "Renee," he said finally, "how fast can we get this to the press?" She hesitated. "If we push it too soon, they'll spin it. You'll need something bigger." Adrian looked up, eyes steeled. "Then I'll give them bigger." The next morning, Turner walked into the precinct to find the lobby crawling with reporters and protesters chanting outside. He barked at the front desk. Who the hell let them in? "Public's demanding a press statement," Martinez said coolly from behind him. She was in plain clothes now, suspended, but still walking tall. Turner sneered. "You should have stayed quiet." "I tried that," she said. "Didn't work." Before Turner could respond, the double doors opened, and Adrian Cole stepped in, flanked by reporters, microphones flashing like gunfire. Turner froze. "Sergeant Turner," Adrian said loudly. "You remember me?" Every camera turned. Turner's smirk faltered. "I'm the son of the man you assaulted," Adrian continued, voice calm but cutting. "The man you handcuffed for doing the right thing. And I'm also the one who's about to end your career." Turner scoffed. "You can't just walk in here and—" Adrian tossed a USB drive onto the front desk. "That's a copy of your training contract invoices, the call logs between you and the chief, and your fake reports." Turner's face went pale. "You think you can threaten me?" "I don't threaten," Adrian said. "I expose." The lobby erupted, reporters shouting, cameras rolling. Turner shoved forward, trying to grab the drive, but Martinez stepped in his way. "You've done enough," she said quietly. Turner glared. "You think they'll take your word over mine?" A voice cut through the chaos. Deep, commanding. "They'll take mine." Everyone turned. Chief Ronson stood at the mezzanine, flanked by officers. He descended slowly, face stone-like, eyes locked on Adrian. "Commander Cole," he said, "I've been expecting you." Adrian met his gaze. "Then you know why I'm here." Ronson nodded slightly. "I do. And you're making a mistake." He turned to the crowd of cameras. "This man is manipulating the narrative. His father's case is under review, but these so-called documents are stolen property." Renee, watching from the side, whispered to Adrian, "They're spinning it. He's going to bury you." But Adrian had anticipated that. He stepped closer to the chief. "You're right about one thing, sir. They are stolen by you. From taxpayers. From the city. From justice itself." He gestured subtly, and Renee clicked a button on her phone. The monitors behind the front desk flickered, then switched to a live broadcast. The leaked phone call played on every screen in the precinct. Turner's voice was unmistakable. The old man's harmless. Just make it look like he resisted. We'll spin it in the report. Copy that, came the chief's voice. Keep him overnight. We'll say it's for processing. A silence fell so heavy it could crush bones. Turner staggered back, face draining of color. Ronson's jaw dropped. Reporters surged forward, shouting over one another. Martinez exhaled shakily. Vindicated. Adrian's voice sliced through the chaos. You framed an innocent man to hide your corruption. And you underestimated who he was. He leaned in close enough for the chief to hear. You see, his son's trained to take down terrorists. And today, that includes the kind that wear badges. Within hours, the city was in uproar. The mayor ordered an internal investigation. Turner and the chief were both suspended pending federal review. Protests filled downtown streets, peaceful but powerful, echoing the words, "Justice for Jameson." In the hospital, Jameson watched the news from his bed, a quiet tear tracing his cheek as he saw his son standing firm before microphones, defending him, defending their name. But the victory wasn't clean. That night, Renee called Adrian again, voice uneasy. We've stirred up something big. I just got word from a federal contact. The training contract went beyond Denver. There's a national syndicate behind it. Turner and the chief are just the bottom. Adrian sighed. Then we've got more work to do. Are you sure you want to keep going? She asked. This could ruin your career. He smiled faintly. Justice doesn't need permission. At dawn, a black SUV pulled up outside Adrian's motel. He opened the door to find Martinez, dressed in civilian clothes, holding a manila envelope. I'm leaving town, she said. Whistleblower protection. But I thought you should have this. Inside the envelope were photographs. Turner shaking hands with contractors, off-the-record meetings with city officials. Proof? Adrian asked. Enough to keep them scared, she said. You made them blink. Don't stop now. He nodded. You did the right thing, Martinez. She smiled sadly. Then why does it feel like I lost everything? Because doing right costs more than doing wrong, Adrian said softly. But you'll sleep better. She nodded, tears threatening, and walked away. When Adrian returned to the hospital, his father was awake, sitting by the window. The sunlight cut across his face like gold. Fragile, fleeting. You look tired, Jameson said. Adrian smirked. You always said rest was for the weak. Jameson chuckled weakly. And now you sound like your mother. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything pressing between them. I saw the news, Jameson said quietly. You did good. But don't let them turn you bitter, son. The world needs men who fight, not just to win but to heal. Adrian's throat tightened. You still believe in healing after what they did to you? Jameson smiled faintly. Because if I stop believing, they win twice. The old man reached out, resting a frail hand on his son's. Promise me something. Adrian nodded. Anything. When this is over, forgive them. Not for their sake. For yours. Later that day, the Justice Department officially indicted Turner and Chief Ronson. Denver erupted in celebration. But for Adrian it didn't feel like victory. Only relief. He stood alone outside the hospital that night, looking up at the American flag rippling in the wind. The same flag he'd fought under, bled for, lost brothers beneath. For the first time he understood what his father had meant. There are wars you fight with weapons, and wars you fight with your heart. The storm had passed, but the air in Denver still carried tension, like a bruise that refused to fade. For a week, The city lived in a strange balance of anger and hope. News trucks crowded the streets, murals appeared overnight, and people whispered the same name, Jameson Cole. An elderly man who had done nothing wrong had somehow ignited a movement. At St. Luke's Hospital, Jameson sat by the window, wrapped in a pale blue blanket. The doctors said he'd recover, but his heart had grown tired. Yet every time a nurse walked by, she smiled as if he were something larger than life, a living symbol of quiet resilience. He didn't see himself that way. He saw an old man who picked up a purse and almost lost his life for it. But when he looked at the TV, he saw something that made his eyes glisten. Footage of his son standing before the Senate Subcommittee on Civil Oversight, uniform crisp, voice calm. Commander Adrian Cole wasn't here for revenge anymore. He was here for reform. "Ladies and gentlemen," Adrian said to the panel, "justice isn't about punishment, it's about protection. My father was handcuffed for doing what was right because the system saw his color before his character. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm demanding change." The room fell silent. Jameson smiled faintly. "That's my boy," he whispered. After the hearings, Adrian met Renee Kincaid on the steps of the Capitol. The cameras were gone. The adrenaline had faded. "You did it," she said softly. "They're drafting a new accountability act. Statewide oversight, body cam transparency, racial bias audits. You changed things." Adrian shook his head. "We changed things. You, Martinez, my father. This wasn't my war alone." Renee tilted her head. "So what now, Commander? Back to the Navy?" He looked out over the city. "Maybe. But there's another battle here. The kind that doesn't use guns." She smiled. "You sound like your dad." Adrian chuckled. "That's the highest compliment I could get." Weeks later, Turner sat in a federal holding cell. The swagger was gone. The mirror on the wall reflected not a cop, but a man stripped of power, reputation, and illusion. He stared at the flickering TV in the common room, watching Adrian's testimony replayed for the nation. His lips curled in something like regret, but not quite redemption. Martinez visited him once, not to gloat but to close the chapter. "You ruined a good man's peace," she said quietly through the glass. "And for what?" Turner swallowed hard. "For the system. It's how it's always been." She nodded. "Maybe that's why it needs people like us to tear it down." As she walked away, Turner looked down at his hands, once symbols of control, now shaking. When Adrian returned home, the hospital room smelled of lavender and quiet. His father was awake, looking stronger, eyes brighter. "Commander Cole," Jameson teased. "That title fits you even less than Mr." Adrian laughed softly, pulling a chair closer. "How's the hero today?" "Hero?" Jameson snorted. "I'm just an old fool who picked up the wrong purse." Adrian smiled. "No. You picked up the world, Dad, and made it look at itself." For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence. "I saw your speech," Jameson said finally. "Your mother would have cried. So did I." Adrian reached for his father's hand. "I couldn't have done it without you." Jameson looked away, his voice trembling. "Promise me something, son." "Anything. When the world forgets again, and it will, don't stop fighting. But don't lose yourself to the fight. The world doesn't need more soldiers. It needs healers." Adrian's eyes misted. "I'll try." "Don't try," Jameson said gently. "Do." 3 months later, Jameson Cole passed quietly in his sleep. The funeral was small but full. Neighbors, officers, journalists, veterans, strangers who'd seen the video and felt something shift inside them. The church bell tolled slowly, echoing across the morning. As the folded American flag was placed in Adrian's hands, He held it to his chest, the weight of memory heavy and holy. Martinez stood beside him, head bowed. Renee filmed from a respectful distance. When the last note of the bugle faded, Adrian whispered to the wind, "Rest easy, Dad. The mission continues." Months later, Denver unveiled the Jameson Cole Center for Civil Integrity, a joint program between the city and the Navy's Veteran Outreach Division, founded by Commander Adrian Cole himself. The program trained both veterans and police officers in empathy-based de-escalation, situational awareness, and racial bias response. On the wall of the lobby hung a quote engraved in bronze. "Justice isn't just what you fight for. It's how you fight for it." Jameson Cole. Every week, Adrian taught classes there, wearing plain clothes, not his uniform. Sometimes he'd pause by the bronze plaque and just stare at it, remembering the man who'd once taught him how to stand tall even when the world tried to break him. Renee often dropped by to film segments about the program. She once asked him, "Do you think he'd be proud?" Adrian smiled, eyes distant. "He already told me he was." One evening, long after the last trainee had left, Adrian locked up the center and stepped outside. The sky was turning gold and purple, the same shade it had been the day he'd flown to Denver months ago. He took a slow breath, feeling the cool air settle in his lungs, a peace he hadn't known in years. As he walked toward his truck, he glanced back at the mural painted across the side of the building. His father's face, eyes kind, expression wise, surrounded by the words, "He found what was lost and helped us find ourselves." Adrian smiled faintly, placing a hand over his heart. "Mission accomplished," he whispered. Then he climbed into his truck and drove into the fading light, a soldier no longer at war but finally at peace. The end.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.